back in May is when Marshall initially met Patrick, and even them meeting was completely God orchestrated and God ordained. Um, and I love the part of just the history of Patrick, the initial meeting of Marshall and Patrick reaching out for help, and those couple of days of Marshall being reluctant. And I think that's important. That's an important part to reflect on, because how many of us go through a day or go through a time where there's someone that's in need of help, and we have that doubt, or we have that fear, like, what if this person is not genuine? And then it kind of eats at your heart, right? Because you have the ability to help them, but maybe you choose not to, or maybe you go through a couple of hours or a couple of days or a couple of weeks of not doing it because you have that fear and that doubt of, should I actually help this person? And so once Marshall did help Patrick, I mean, it was, ever since then, it's just been, like I said, like a rocket ship. At the time, Marshall was helping Patrick with his rent, and where they were living in this little studio with a bed on the floor, there was no bathroom, there was no shower, there was no toilet. They didn't have a kitchen with a refrigerator and an electric stove and an oven and washer and dryer and all that stuff. They didn't have any of that. It was $37 a month. So the cost that some people pay for a dinner, that was how much it cost to support this family living in this little one-room shack, pretty much. Once I made that statement, hey, we've got to find him a better place to live. Everything just happened so quickly. Within minutes, we were looking online to see what it would cost. Where exactly is he located? How far would it be from where he is? And we found a place. So we set out for the first week of August. He went to look at the place the next day, sent us pictures, sent us videos, and he was just in disbelief. The guy there was just very judgmental. He looked at him and his wife, and when they were inquiring about it, he's kind of looking down on him, like, what do you mean you want to rent this place? You're gonna try to live here? So that's a painful experience for him, and for anybody that's ever been through something like that. The 2nd of August is the official day that they moved in, and I'll never forget the story of when they were actually leaving the village they were in. Again, they used to go out door to door every day, and when they were leaving the village, there was actually a Muslim guy who was there, and he used to mock them relentlessly. He used to mock them. He used to make fun of them. He used to say things like, you guys are always out here preaching about how good God is, and look at you have nothing. And he would just talk down to them. And the day that they were leaving, the same Muslim guy comes up to them, and he's looking at them like, where are you guys going? And they told him, we're leaving. The Lord is providing. The Lord is making a way for us. And that same day, he committed his life to Christ. And once he moved in, I don't even think they were there for a week. He said, as soon as we have some tables, or as soon as we have a couch, as soon as we have a place where people can come and gather, we're going to start fellowshipping in our house. That was one of the first things that he said, probably less than a week of being there. And you have to remember, this is during a time where in the US, we're not just on lockdown. A lot of places are on lockdown. Uganda is one of those places that were on lockdown, and they were on a strict lockdown. You couldn't be outside after 6 p.m. or you'd have some officials chasing you down. So the churches were closed. And just imagine being in a place that can at times be gloomy because you're just under so much suffering. And the church, the one place where people can find hope, the one place where people can find refuge, is closed. In the midst of all this and just transforming his life and their condition of living, I mean, there was so many miracles that occurred because he still was committed to going out door to door. And I remember one story specifically of a baby whose name was Paul, and Paul suffered from a lot of wounds in his mouth, which made it hard for him to breastfeed, and he had a lot of tremors. So the doctors told his mother that he had cerebral palsy, and that he would never be able to function with his muscles properly. And when Patrick met the mother and baby Paul, he just could tell that the mother was lacking in hope. And the doctors are telling her one thing and she's not really sure what to do. And so Patrick prays with the mother and prays over baby Paul. And a couple weeks later, when he goes back to visit them, Paul is healed. He no longer has those wounds. He's able to breastfeed, and he no longer suffers from those tremors that he once had. And this is just one example of the many, many stories that Patrick has shared with us in the midst of him going out door to door and spreading the gospel and just ministering to people and praying with them. So after we get the table and the chairs, he begins to have fellowship in his home. And once he has fellowship in his home, I mean, that's when things started to just absolutely blow up. When he had the fellowship, he invited some people over to come over for Sunday for prayer, and they were going to break bread. And at this point in time, we'd gotten them the stove, and one of the things he said on one of our phone calls, he said, brother, he's like, this stove is amazing. He's like, the beans, they cook in like 5 seconds. So they were able to prepare some meals for the people that came over for fellowship. And it started out with a few in number, and they were able to pray with them. They had some meals, had rice and beans, and were able to give them some things to take home, just some essentials, some of the things that you or I probably have again in excess in our own homes. They were so grateful to be able to have that and take it home. And I mean, a couple of weeks went by of them having these home services, and the number just kept increasing, and it kept increasing, and it kept increasing to the point where he had to have services in shifts. So that was pretty exhausting for him and his wife to go through that. But they were committed through and through, and eventually the number increased so much so that he had to start moving it outside. And when he moves it outside is around the time when things over here for us and the team started to pick up as well. Marshall started working on the Facebook page and the website, and once we actually shared with Patrick, hey, we made a Facebook page for you, he started doing live preaching videos. He actually, after getting the link for the Facebook page, he did a live video within 24 hours. So once he was outside with his fellowship on Sundays, the number was just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he was feeding hundreds of kids every Sunday, and there's even some footage, once again, just his level of commitment. There's footage of him feeding the kids outside in the rain, and they're hiding under these little cavets. These are the construction materials that are outside. The kids are hiding under there so that they can hide away from the rain and actually enjoy their meal. But in the midst of all of this, people are being receptive to the gospel and to the word, and they're looking up to this man who at one point, was even doubting himself, was still going door to door, but was still dealing with doubt within himself. And now he's reaching a point where people are looking up to him, and kids are coming up to him on Sunday and saying, Pastor, are we going to be able to have lunch today? And he's like, of course. The ministry was growing at just such a rapid pace, and we were trying to keep up as much as we could. As the number increases, we realize, okay, we need to actually find a dedicated space for him. And funny enough, Patrick put up a picture of this hall that he saw. It was a beautiful, beautiful hall with beautiful, lush grass in the backyard. Lots and lots of space inside. He took a picture of it and put it on Facebook, and it was as if he already knew that that's where he would be. And once we told him, he said, hey, let's start looking for a place. He began shopping around and looking at places to rent, and that hall that he ended up in is the very same one that he took a picture of, not even knowing. As soon as we were able to get some help to purchase the hall for rent, he immediately went and did it, and he sent us a video the very same day, him and Jane, with their receipt showing that they had bought it and it was theirs, and they were so excited. One of the first things that came to mind for me was, well, you're going to be in this beautiful hall, in this amazing building. You got to get you a suit. He's 26 years old, and that was his first time ever wearing a suit. And after he had that suit, he just in disbelief, and his wife was in disbelief of, just everything at once. It was just a lot. A conversation that we had, he said, he's like, whether I'm rich or poor, I'm going to serve the Lord. If I have nothing, I'm going to serve him. And if I have everything, I'm still going to serve him. A lot of people that had known Patrick and Jane are amazed at the fact that they're now running this church in a building, and this man's dressed in a suit, when just a few months ago he was in raggedy clothes and didn't have much of anything. After getting the hall and just going through the experience of watching him bloom as a person and bloom within his mind, it's been amazing to see. That probably was one of the hardest things, going back to his childhood of not really coming from a complete home. He had a mom who tried to abort him a number of times, and once he was born, she didn't want anything to do with him. And his stepmom that he grew up with didn't really show him much affection, much love. And it's easy to grow up in a place like that and then in turn become a very bitter person, or become a very angry person, or become someone who doesn't have a heart to help other people. But for him, that wasn't so. You know, he puts 120% in everything that he does, always. And he is always looking for ways to bless other people. He's always looking for ways to bless us. You know, one of the things that he constantly says to me is, he says, I wish, I wish you could see my heart right now. And he tells me that when he can't even express in words the joy and the gratitude that he has